What's going on, Cancer? I salute the divinity in you. And welcome to the Chariot Friends. I'm going to be able to talk in a minute. Justin here. And how you feeling today? You able to use your words correctly? Because the moon's in Aquarius, so that would be appropriate. But, we're still in Saturn territory. And one thing I do like with Aquarius, especially with the phase that she's in, is taking this crescendo, this momentum that the waxing crescent builds up, and holding that in the mind to keep that vision in mind. That because Aquarius is a great visionary, and I feel with the moon, the trickiness with the moon in Aquarius, I think, can be sometimes is like holding the vision with how she fluctuates. And we'll talk about that more here in a little bit. But before we jump into that, if you're new here, my name is Justin, and know that when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and she loves that. But this is also a place for if you happen to have Cancer in your placements, Sun, Moon, Rising, maybe Saturn, wherever. This one's for you. And I do tarot card spreads based off that lovely luminary, the good old moon. And I'll talk about what sign she's in, what phase she's in, when she's going for. Of course, just all of those lunar shenanigans. I think, like, am I going to be able to sum up enough energy for that and for the moon? I'm like, I always have enough energy for the moon. And I'll talk about what sign she's in, what phase she's in, and when she's going for. Of course, just all those lunar shenanigans. And just so y'all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one. So take what resonates with you, discard the rest, and everything will be dope, Cancer. Now, I'm pretty sure Mercury's direct. Let's jump into it. Because, you know what? Maybe it's just because of the day. Me and I'm going to be shuffling for your general energy. But depending on when you're watching this, happy Mercury Day. Mercury is associated with Wednesdays, and usually this is a great day for talking. But Mercury is can be wishy-washy like that. Sometimes Mercury's on your side, and other time Mercury could be. They sometimes call Mercury the trickster. So there's that. But I do like Mercury days for days for like processing information, for great days for just like for basic things, for like reading, for doing any sort of research. Maybe you have some studying that you need to get done. Great for communicating, calling up friends, or maybe even joining different groups or something along those lines. Thank you, Spirit. Communing with Spirit. Mercury, could venture. The cool thing about Mercury, when you think about Mercury in the astrology, Mercury finds joy in the first house. And the cool thing about Mercury is Mercury it's neutral. So it can function well in the day chart, function well in the night chart. And it's nice because it has that ability to just kind of flip flop, to be in either one. And I think that Mercury days can be a great day for divination, because Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. And that's how we take the divine inspirations and articulate them. Mercury it's taking that and finding reason and comprehension in what is being disseminated in the kind of ethereal astral realm. So Mercury plays a really key role, and that's something too to kind of pay attention to. What is your relationship? That's another thing I like working with these days and hours. What is your relationship with your Mercury placement? How do you do during Mercury transits? How do you do when Mercury's direct versus Mercury retrograde? Do you have Mercury retrograde in your chart? I know quite a few people who have Mercury retrograde. I actually have a friend who both of their children have Mercury retrograde. So it's not like it happens. So it's just like, and it's not always a bad thing when we're thinking about retrogrades as well. So that's just another thing, how this relationship is. So I invite you to think about these ways. And then again, like the Mercury transits, what is Mercury like in this house compared to this house? I saw Mercury come alive in someone's third house not too long ago. Their communication was fiery and Sag, and it was a mistake. So it's really fascinating when you see that come up. So something to pay attention to. But let's talk about the lunar shenanigans now, another thing to pay attention to. Because on January 1st, and we're in the new year, so happy new year on the calendar sense at least. But the moon is going to be entering into Aquarius at about 2:50 a.m., and that's going to be Pacific time. And she's in that waxing crescent phase. And like I was saying, the waxing crescent phase is now we're coming from the full moon, the energy is starting to build. Things are getting exciting. Like, okay, I set this intention, like, okay, can I do this thing? Like, okay, am I going big enough for this thing? And I think when we're working with Aquarius, because one, they're ruled traditionally by Saturn. So Saturn gives form, gives structure, brings in, can set these limits and restrictions, but in order to this body would be a great example of Saturn, housing raw power and just raw energy in a container. That's Saturn. But it's where it's limited, you can still create wonderful things in this body and have wonderful experiences. So when we're thinking about Aquarius too, they're the fixed air sign. So the fixed signs have this sustainability. They have the staying power when it comes to holding what the cardinal initiates. So we're talking about Capricorn. And the air sign is masculine in nature, so it's active. Aquarius is a great visionary. They talk about Aquarius seeing the future, but I think it's because they have that mental focus, that mental power. Where Libra is the initiator of thought, they are the sustainers of that thought. And that's the trickiness with Aquarius, is that sometimes you can get too locked in on a thought and maybe even become narrow-minded in that grand vision. So that's something to pay attention to, I think, while the moon is in Aquarius. And I think, too, that this is one to notice what thoughts you have been locked on towards, especially the ones that tend to beat you up, that bring you down. And what is happening, what are the conditions that are making those happen? And where can we apply a bit more discipline, maybe bring a bit more of that Saturnian force in order to overcome these obstacles. So that's another thing I think to think about, where the moon is not quite, she's not in her detriment like she is in Capricorn, but she still is in in Saturn's realm. It's still like we're still in kind of tricky waters when we're working with kind of Saturn energy. So that's just something to think about, I think, with the moon in Aquarius. But again, this could be a very inspired time as well. The vision is really starting to take form. This could be a great writing a list, doing a vision board type of energy. I think could be a great way of working with the, writing that stuff down would be great. Doing a voice memo, record this. That is a great way of working with Aquarian energy. And if you want to work with this energy a little more intentionally, down in the description box below is a link for the services that I provide if you want to know your chart and work with these transits or different celestial returns, your solar returns, your lunar returns, your Saturn returns, whatever return, whatever's returning, we're going to tackle like a boss. So if that's something that resonates with you, definitely check that down in the description box. But let's go ahead and switch over. And then the last little bit here, these readings that I do, they're not gender-specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. And I'm going to ring this bell to bring in some good vibes, so adjust your volume if you need to, but let's get into this thing. All right. Let's see what's going on here. Ooh, look at this. All right, so look at you kicking back in this. Oh, that'd be a. No, I thought that'd be a waning crescent moon, but that's fine. So you have the relaxation card here, which is a card of peaceful pursuits and happy times. And that's a great thing to lock on to with this Aquarius moon. I think that this person here, they're chilling in their hammock, and this is the dreaming part of the process. You know, we're not quite in the action form. This is the time to be doing the research. You know, if you want to learn another language, looking at different videos, getting different books, working with different apps. If you're wanting to change your diet, looking at different, working with more organic foods, learning different recipes, things along those lines. But this is the visualization time. Like, okay, when I do these things, this is going to provide more of this. And it might be more time for relaxation. That might be something that you're working on this lunar cycle here. You know, that, you know, maybe you have a sixth house and you tend to work a lot. I'm just thinking with Leo rising, you know, maybe if you happen to haven't had that work-life balance, maybe that is working in a bit more relaxation into your life, a little more happy times here, a little more times for rest, kicking back. But I do think that considering this moon is waning in this picture, I do think that there is something that's being let go of first. Like there is a part of the tumultuousness that's needing to be addressed in order to get to that happy time. And that's something that's very interesting how that's popping up too. As far as maybe you've been kind of sleeping on something or waiting for something to happen, but you know, there will be time to relax. It's not always just doing this, you know, work, whatever this quote unquote work for you is. And I think even too, just when I'm thinking about this lunar cycle is Capricorns. And just on a base level, when I think about Earth, I think about this body. This is something that, you know, this material thing that you can touch. And I think that there is something here about making sure that this is getting enough, the body is getting enough time to relax. It's giving me kind of like a Four of Swords sort of energy, which you had gotten a lot of, I think, in the last reading, either the reading or the one before that one, where there's a lot of this energy of rest. And but let's get some tarot on this and see what the past energies were like. Yeah, let's get some more on this. Ooh, look at this, all this lunar energy. It's getting dreamy in here. So in the past, you had the moon card here. And this to me is giving something that was hard to touch. Maybe this relaxation has been feeling elusive. Maybe with this moon card, maybe you've been kind of going. That's interesting. Like I'm getting this sort of like in a stupor, or maybe in just some sort of like funk. Even, you know, like almost like that fog in between the waking up phase when you're first starting to wake up, and maybe even what's kind of the first things that come to your mind. Kind of observe that as well. What's kind of coming through there? What's been maybe coming up for you in the past with this moon card? Because the moon is a very nebulous place. This is Pisces card, so of course you get a little nebulous with Pisces. But there is something uncertain with the moon, something very intuitive that happens with the moon card. And let's get a clarifier on this and see what's more, because I think that this moon too is a need to get in that dreamy state. Yes, to get in that dreamy state. Oh, interesting. And look at the things, thank you, Spirit, that get in the way of that. Because you have the Eight of Swords here. This is Jupiter in Gemini. And, you know, Jupiter's in retrograde in Gemini, not in his strongest situation right now. And I think that there could potentially, pay attention to the interference maybe in your sleep. Maybe there's been some past things. Maybe there's been something that has been getting in the way of your peaceful pursuits. And maybe this could be too, maybe getting wrapped up in some things that almost feel like a dream. It doesn't feel real, or something like, what is actually going on right now? Is this what the past energy is kind of giving me? And something like, if you ignore the noise that's going on around, that can bring about more states of peace. I remember coming in, especially, when I'm thinking about the astrology, when Mercury retrogrades are happening, I do love to observe how that does change each day. I like observing the moon, those sort of daily sort of transits that happen real just kind of fast, and how that pops up each time. And I remember one Mercury retrograde, the first day that it happened, it was like walking into a hornet's nest. It was just a mess. And people were coming to check in oh, are you doing good? I was like, I'm great. I'm chilling. I know what's going on. And there is this awareness that's going on, I think, here too as well, that's needing to be had. Something's almost maybe getting in the way of a radio signal is what I'm kind of picturing. There's some sort of interference even in that sort of way. So pay attention to that. Maybe even some sort of things that you're watching or listening to or reading as you're going to sleep. Or let's get a card on the present and see what's going on here. Oh, look at Cap. So you have the devil in reverse here. And that's interesting. Yeah, Capricorn's coming through this cycle. But this, to me now, this is spirit over matter. When we got devil in reverse here in the present, this to me is we're overcoming some sort of, looking at maybe again some sort of past vices that maybe we're getting in the way, distractions in this past. But this feels more so binge watching a lot of TV, or maybe even going down some sort of social media scrolling storm, but not just one that gives you sustenance, but just when you eat a bunch of junk food, you eat a bunch of it, but you're still hungry. Nothing really happened here. And that's where I think that there's this need to perseverance, something that comes up, I think, with the devil when I think about that, and the work that it calls to maintain that sense of motivation and purpose in the state of when a vice kicks in, when you get a craving or something along those lines, for whatever that craving may be. And this might be too, something here is maybe with this relaxation is maybe it's a little too sleepy. Something with that too. There's this balance about not getting too lax. I'm thinking getting an eight of cups kind of vibe here. But let's get a clarifier with this devil and see what's going on with that. Thanks, Spirit. So you have the Eight of Pentacles here. And this is a card of prudence. And I'm thinking that there's this learning from I'm getting this hit of, there are these messages that are kind of coming through. There are these dreams, and they're just coming in the form of ideas. Maybe there's something as far as daydreams. Maybe you get inspired while looking at something, about maybe looking at the clouds. Maybe it's looking at the water. Maybe it's something here that is being put to some use here with the Eight of Disc being the clarifier, and it's being utilized as something, a way to overcome maybe an addiction, possibly that could be something that's on the mix, but I think that it is something that's just strengthening your will. That's not. It's something that is keeping you, maybe that keeps you grounded in a sense, with this eight of Pentacles being here. Let's see what's going on in the future. I even got something too. I'm looking at the devil and just looking at that mark on his chest, and I think that there's something deep down, maybe in your chest, in your where maybe there's been this kind of, it's like a pursuit of peace, possibly, and that's something else that's just kind of coming through there. But now with the future energy here, you got the Five of Cups in reverse, and with this for me, this is I think that this can be the acceptance that maybe some peaceful times. For some, I almost feel like it reminds me of like when you're coming towards, like, for example, maybe the end of a vacation, like the next day you got to get back into the routine of things. And where there's maybe it's a bittersweet type of moment where it's like you're kind of back to get into the swing, but there's still like there's this just like nostalgia for what was. But I think that it's not about thinking about the end of something like, oh, maybe this is the end of relaxation, I'll never relax again. No, but knowing that there will be more times to relax as well. I'm even getting this feeling of maybe even of allowing yourself to relax a little bit, to actually enjoy something, even if it's just for like a little bit, just to take that solace that, and in this moment everything is peaceful, everything is fine, I feel relaxed, and I think that even to this future thing, to not anticipate disappointment, but I'm even getting like more of a kind of somatic, maybe a body thing, like as far as like where you're kind of carrying tension when it comes to certain things, when you think about disappointment, where that clumps up, does it go in the shoulders even? Let's get a clarifier with this Five of Cups. And I think even too, there's this thing about not being disappointed in the process of the dream. You may have this pursuit of peacefulness, happiness that you're wanting. There are these challenges that are coming through with this, and this Five of Cups can be like that sort of, that like you can feel disappointed by something in the moment, but I like that. Thanks, Spirit. But the Five of Cups is clarified by the Fool. And I think that, like, even if something didn't go as you planned, you still moved the needle in a different direction. And I think there's something there's something to celebrate in that. Even on a base level, the power to be able to shift things. Like, there are some times where we can tell ourselves we can't do something, and then when our backs are against the wall, we do the thing, and then you get through it. And then it's just like, oh, wow, look at that. So I think that this Fool is about the choices that we make, the choices that we do to pursue that equilibrium and keeping the hope towards that. To not think that going towards a new pursuit, to again, not to expect disappointments. I think that in this pursuit of joy, yeah, there are going to be some things that maybe don't go your way, but that doesn't mean it should deter you from putting in that work, from showing up each day, that Eight of Pentacles, and showing up however you need to show up, even with the devil being there. There's some times where you're not feeling that, where it's spirit over matter and you're feeling on top of it, and then other things, matter's over spirit, and we need to take a nap. Maybe 3 naps, and that's all right. But yeah, that's what I got for you there. Let's get some advice from Saturn. Spirit. Oh, all right. So there's Mars. You got the Tower here, and got a lot of majors here. And with the Tower. One way that I like to think about the Tower in reverse is that where something is happening, but that doesn't mean that life has to happen to you. You can make life happen for you. You know, like where if I got to do this thing, I'm gonna do it on my terms. You know, like where fine. You know, that it's just like that sort of acceptance that the thing has to happen. Do I want to wait for that shoe to drop or to get ahead of it? And where this initial strike may have happened, because I mean these are some weird, because again something strange feels like it's happened here, especially with that Moon card. It's like something is taking the turn, but it was like a disruptance in order to get to a state of peace. But I don't think that that's necessarily the advice, is not necessarily seeking the extremes or disasters or anything, but knowing that there is a solution. But let's get some advice for this, or get a clarifier for this Tower. Oh, fascinating. Wow. So, thank you, Spirit. Oh, so the Tower is clarified by the Five of Cups here. And I feel like that's been happening a little bit, these sort of like double cards. I don't, did it happen in Capricorn, the moon? I'll have to look back at that. But I know for sure you had one where you had 2 Four of Swords, and then now there's these 2 Five of Cups here. And with this advice, you know, the 5 of Cups in the Thoth deck is the card of disappointment, the Lord of Disappointment. This is Mars in Scorpio, and this is where Mars finds one of his domiciles, is in Scorpio. And Mars is, I was looking at this, Mars is the only planet that I think is in all of his power places. We got Mars in Scorpio, Mars in Aries, and Mars in Capricorn. So they're ultimately going to the Mars cards, all of Mars here. But this Mars in Scorpio, you know, that's even thinking about the majors, that's the Tower and that's the Death card. Something may not have gone the way that we may, and you know, I can switch back over here. Something may not have gone the way that we had expected it to, but I don't think that, I think that there are some things that are some necessary steps that needed to be taken in order to get to a newer level here. Again, to get to this place where we can feel like we can relax again. But I think that it's also too that knowing that these hardships are not going to be forever. The ones that do come up from time to time, in that you do always find this state of peace again after the storm. But I think it's with double 5 of Cups is like learning not to fight the storm. But this is a very interesting combination here, this vibe. But I think I'm going to leave that there. Something to think about if anything resonated with you there. But if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know somebody who can get some nuggets of wisdom from this. And then subscribe there, you fool. Hit that bell button, you adventurer. Hit that bell button, get notified on all these videos each day. And I'm going to shuffle for your surprise card here while I give you this other last bit of information here. But if you want to know what is going on with the other celestial bodies, the Sun, Jupiter, Mars, since Mars was to come out and play, down in the description box is a link for my other channel, Alchemist 8, where I do weekly videos talking about the different transits and how to work with them and set different intentions and things. So, yeah, that's something that resonates with you. Definitely avail yourself of that. But thank you, Spirit. Let's go ahead and get to your surprise card here, which is, you got the Aim at God card here. And this, to me, is that aiming for that highest light, aiming towards that God self in you, and finding that sense of peace, that pursuit of happiness. And I think it's knowing that in that pursuit that there are going to be these disappointments maybe that happens, these realizations, but there's wisdom that comes from that in the Eight of Disc, and we know how to move with these disappointments going forward with that, how the Fool was clarifying the Five of Cups here. And I think that Five of Cups to the Tower, I think that's even where it's an acceptance where it's not like an acceptance like, oh, yay, yay, hard, look at these challenges that are coming. It's just like, well, if I got to do this, then yeah, like let's do it. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to try to have as much control in the things that I can have control in under. And just like, and trying not to get caught up in the storm of things, and just remember that we're always aiming at that higher place, aiming for that elevation. And I think that it's too not being disappointed with yourself if you happen to, and maybe, maybe with others if this is applying to that, but not being disappointed with yourself if if you don't quite hit the mark the way that you expected it to. And in the eyes of Spirit, you're doing things perfect. You're doing it exactly as you need to, and that's all that Spirit wants from you. So, very low expectations there. But yeah, I think that's what I got for you there. So until next time, keep raising that vibration and keep eyes on that moon. And I will catch you on the next one. When am I gonna catch you? I'm not. I gotta catch up with my notes later. Oh, I'm taking a picture. Hold on.